Recording. Right. I think that's working now.
Yeah.
Hey guys. Lee Ashby here from BSMA Motocross Memories. I've got an absolutely unbelievable interview for you tonight. I am with no other than 10 times world champion and the GOAT, the main man in world motocross, Stefan Everts. How are you doing, Stefan?
Yeah, good, thanks. How you doing yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Absolutely amazing to have you on. You're an absolute idol to many, obviously, but personally, myself as a schoolboy growing up, watching your career, unbelievable to get to speak to you one-on-one. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem.
Right, okay, then we'll get into the questions then. Number one, what has been your favourite tracks to race, firstly as a schoolboy, and then during your pro career, and why do you like these particular tracks?
Well, as a schoolboy, for me, I mean, any track was fine to ride. You just want to ride, and whatever comes up. Then at a certain stage, if you start racing, you have a certain tracks where you do well, and then you set up a system in yourself that going back to that track, you have a good last memory, and you think you're gonna do good there. And some tracks where you had a bad race, you're going there with a different attitude. So at one stage during my career, I tried to neutralize this way of thinking, and tracks like Loket and Sweden, I hated those tracks, but at a certain moment, I was even be able to win at those bad tracks, which I didn't like. It was also possible to win, but if you have this idea or this last race you've done there and it's a bad result, you're going there with a bad feeling. But
mental problem.
It's so much mentally, and I've tried to neutralize that and just go to every track. If I like it or I don't like it, it's a new track, it's an old track, whatever. I go there and I'm gonna do my best. I give it all, and we'll see what comes out. And at a certain stage, a certain moment, I start to turn around things, and even the tracks I didn't like, I was still racing at my best and still was able to win. And was an important step in my career to be more neutral to any track what's coming up. You know, what happened last year is not going to happen this year. So every year, every race is a new race, and it's a new start and a fresh start.
So was there any particular tracks that were your favorites?
Well, I mean, Fox Hill was one of my favorite during the 90s. You know, I always did really well. I did some big wins there, and especially the Nations in '98 when it was so muddy. I don't know, I just had a great contact with that track, with that dirt, with those rocks, and the hills. It was just a beautiful track, natural. And then after I went to Namur. It took me quite some years before I did my first race. Namur was '98. And that track, because it's such a high level technical track. It's the most difficult track that I ever raced, because there's so many parts that comes in which makes race that track so extremely difficult. It's but I loved it. It was always just a challenge for me to go and race difficult tracks and just find a good way going around these tracks. And for sure, Fox Hill, Namur, but even Ernée in France or Saint-Jean-d'Angely. There's also tracks I really love to ride, and sand tracks. I mean, at one stage you like them all. So, but mainly, let's say Fox Hill and Namur.
That's really cool for me as well, because Swindon, where Fox Hill is my hometown as well. So I literally was like 5 minutes away to get to go and see you down there. And I've even got my Swindon Town football shirt on as well. Fox Hill country. So yes, that's pretty cool. That was your favourite track, and I always remember you saying that as well. So that was really cool. Okay, number two. When you were a schoolboy racer, what riders did you look up to and idolise, and why? And did you ever get to race any of your motocross heroes?
Well, as a schoolboy, I always went to the GPs as a small child. I grew up going to the GPs with my dad.
Yep.
Well, I mean, when he was racing in the 250, I don't remember that much because I was too young. But once he moved up to the 125 class in 79, 18, 81, 82, then I still remembered quite some parts and bits and pieces from it. But in general, I wouldn't say from everybody a fan, but I admire the most of the top riders.
Yeah.
Especially my dad was a big influence, of course. And you
Yeah.
had Eric Boers, Andre Malherbe. We had so many world champions in Belgium.
Yeah.
But I also loved Hakan Karquist. For me, he was also a hero, and Georges Roubaix and but I also always had a special feeling with Johnny O'Mara. I mean, he
Oh,
influenced
yeah.
me also quite a lot. When I start to see some bits and pieces from the Supercross in America, it was very hard to see some races on TV back when I was young.
Yeah.
But what I saw was that O'Mara was for me the guy. He had the style. Uh, yeah, I mean, he had it all. He had the name, he had the style, he had the clothes, the GT
Yeah.
racing USA clothes, the
Yeah.
white gear. It was
Really
just
cool. Really
perfect. Then
cool. Yeah.
he came and raced the Nations a couple of years back in the 80s, and then I saw him for the first time in real. I got his autograph there when I was a little boy, and yeah, great memories. He was for me for sure a big influence. Later on, he worked for Oakley, and he brought me to Oakley eyewear. And I'm still Oakley. I'm still today with Oakley. So thanks to Johnny O'Mara, I got into the Oakley, and yeah, was for sure he was a big influence for my career. Yeah.
That's really cool. Um, Next one. You were a top level rider for 18 years and raced against arguably some of the greatest racers of all time. Who were your closest rivals during your racing days, and who did you enjoy racing with the most, and why?
Yeah, I had quite many different rivals.
Yeah.
I mean, going from Donny Schmidt, Bob Moore, Greg Albertine, Sebastian Tortelli, Michael Pichon, Joel Smets. I mean, so many more riders. I think those names were one of the guys that I raced for the title for the championships.
Yeah.
I mean, one season, of course, stands out, and that's a '98 season when I raced with Tortelli. I didn't win that year. I just lost it at the end in Greece. But that year still stands out because the level that we was racing, we was pushing each other so hard, and we just keep pushing our levels going up, and the rest of the field couldn't do that, and it
Yeah.
was just Sebastian and me who was going in for the win. It was, or he was winning or I was winning.
Yeah. It's like
No,
levels above.
so yeah, I mean, a lot of respect to Sebastian, of course, also to the other riders. I mean, all the guys that I've raced with,
Yeah.
they all had their character to race with. Every rider was different, um, so it was nice to go through so many generations. Towards the end, I mean, young guys like Steve Ramon and Joshua Coppens. I mean, he was already a bit older, but Kevin Stribels. There was some young guys coming up that I
Yeah.
raced. A lot of names passed by.
For sure. Next one I've got. You raced many different bikes throughout your career, but what was your favourite race bike and why? And was there a particular team that you enjoyed racing for more than others, and why?
Yeah, that's really clear to me. The '98 Honda was one of my favorite two-stroke bikes because that bike I just got on it and it just was perfect. There was not a lot of testing to do, and it
Yeah.
just felt good. It's like a combination that was there for years. And the 2006 Yamaha, it was the
Okay.
aluminium frame, and yeah, it was a four-stroke. So two of my favorite bikes. One is two-stroke, one is four-stroke. Um, it's just the feeling that I had with that bike, it was just there, and it allowed me to push myself to the next level, where other models, other bikes, I was able to push it, but not like those two bikes. They just stand out of all the bikes I've raced with.
Did you personally like the two-stroke more than the four-stroke, or the other way around, or?
No, I enjoyed racing 1 to 5, 250, 500. I mean, two-stroke, four-stroke. I always try to adapt to any kind of situation, and when the situation was a 1 to 5 and a muddy track or a dry track or sandy, I think that's a very important key point to become a world champion, is really to learn to adapt to things, whatever it is, track, machine, weather, all kinds of situations. If you can't do that, you will never be a champion in my eyes.
And the same as what you said about the mental preparation about tracks, be positive about even when you didn't like. It's all part of the package to be a champion as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you go with a bad feeling or a bad mindset to a race or track, already half of it is lost. So you have to learn and go to any kind of race. Even if I was sick or I wasn't feeling right, I still went there with a positive mindset. I've been even winning in bad days, and I always said that you win your championships on your bad day, not on your good day.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, next one. I think we might have a clue about that one. What was your favorite race number, and what was the reason for choosing this number? And did your number change much from your youth days to your pro days?
My very first number was 508. In my first year, when I rode 1 to 5 in Belgium.
Okay.
Of course, back then the number 1 was the number to have. So in my early days, if you had the number 1 plate, you was the best. You was the world champion. So at one stage, I got my number 1 plate, and I enjoyed to have it. But then when I moved up classes, I went 1 year with the 111, and that didn't bring me a lot of luck. And then I had to choose another number, and I just thought to myself, why not 72, the year I was born? And somehow I like that, in the first year that I raced that number, I came back from the injuries and all the struggle I had, and I came back and was back on top of my game. And then the second year, when I was with Rinaldi, I had to go with the number 1. I was preferring to stay with the 72, so I said, okay, here we do the number 1 in 2002, and then I want to go back to the 72, and then I finished off the rest of my career with 72. So, and now it came a bit part of the legend, which is now, let's say, hooked up with the Everts family and the 72s. I'm really happy and thankful that Youth Stream in 2006 really, announced that they want to keep this number only for the Everts family, and they block it. So I'm very happy with that and honored.
That's very cool. That's very cool. Okay, you touched on it a little bit. I've put, what track or venue did you least enjoy racing at, and why?
There was not so many venues or tracks, I've been able to travel a lot around the world, and that was a really cool part of being a racer. And I mean, still today we travel a bit, and with Liam now coming up as a racer. After I retired in 2006, I went into the KTM story, and so nothing had changed a lot. Maybe the last 2 years a bit less traveling, but I mean, I've been always liking going to new venues, new tracks. Because it's a bit, you're going into a dark tunnel and you don't know how it will turn out. And I love challenges, and that's a challenge, going to a track, and you you like it or you don't like it or whatever, and you have to make the best of it. And yeah, that's so difficult for me to say this or that. I went to Isle of Wight, Isle of Man, Isle of
Yeah,
Wight,
it was Isle of, yeah, Isle of Wight.
and that was a tough track for me. So it was a beautiful track. We got there, and it was like, wow, this is a really nice racetrack. Yeah. But I didn't have the feeling on the track.
Oh, right, okay.
I didn't. I mean, that's just what what comes up in my mind now. But but in general, I like new venues, and it's always a challenge. So
that's the right mindset. Yeah, 100%. Okay, next one. Out of all the race gear that you've wore throughout your career, what was your favorite and why?
My what? My
favorite race gear?
Oh, race gear. That's a strange question. I never had that.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, in the early days, the gear. When I look back to the gear that we had from BFE, it's awful. I mean, it was just terrible to use. The gloves, the pants.
That was Suzuki, everything was Suzuki, wasn't it? That was Suzuki.
Yeah, that was with Suzuki. I mean, the Axo Gear 95 when I got my second championship. That looked pretty cool with the purple.
That was nice. Yeah, that was nice.
Then I went to UFO. I think 97. We had some cool kits. I think also the first year with Yamaha 2001 with No Fear, we had a quite cool gear, the white with the red and blue.
Yeah.
And then I think the service, especially the last year when I went complete in the blue.
Yeah.
Well, I won my 10 championship with. That was a really nice gear set. And then, of course, to end off in Ernée with my last GP and the golden suit.
Yeah. It was really cool. That was really cool.
Yeah, it was a nice one.
That's really cool. Okay, next one. Did you have any superstitions or anything you had to specifically do on a race weekend to get race ready?
Yes, one. I have one.
Okay.
I always stepped on my bike first with my right leg.
Oh, right. Okay.
So if I would crash, I would go to the left side of the bike and put my leg over with the left leg. I never put the left leg first over the bike.
Oh, I've never heard of that one before.
It's like putting your pants on in the morning and you put first your left leg.
Side, yeah.
You wake up and you step out of bed with your left leg. You think it's not good, and that feeling I always had when I got on my bike. Always my first, my right leg has to go over first.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, didn't know that one. Where did you race as a schoolboy racer, and did you travel much? Can you elaborate on the experience you gained during your schoolboy days that gave you the grounding to move on to the world scene and obviously be successful?
Well, as a schoolboy, I didn't race that much because at that time my father was still racing GP. So when he had a weekend off or he was injured, we would do some local races on the 80cc back then.
Yeah.
So that was in the year 83 and 84.
Okay.
We did some races here in Belgium. And then I didn't race for a couple of years until I got 15. And then I restarted in 5 when I was 15 years old. Yeah. And we did the Belgium Junior Championship. And then in 89, I moved up to the GPs. So I did a very big step from the first to the second year. I went straight into the GP. Then we started to travel around Europe. So schoolboy, I didn't travel much. I was just more local. Yeah. And then from my 16 years on, I mean, maybe some people still call that schoolboy.
Yeah, potentially.
It is. It is, but I started really early with the GPs back then, and then we took off.
Oh, cool. Do you still ride at all now? And what bikes do you currently have? Have you collected all your championship winning bikes over the years?
Yeah, I have my 10 championship bikes, and I got all of Liam's bikes. I mean, not all, but from each model that he stepped on, from starting with the Yamaha TTR to the 50 automatic to the
Oh, that's really
65. Couple of years 65, and then now 85. We kept his 85 bikes, the 1 to 5 from last year. So
yeah,
I'm saving his bikes. I got
that's
my
pretty
10
cool.
championship bikes, and I got a few bikes from Suzuki, uh, and it's a quite collection. I got some
Yeah,
trail bikes, some other stuff, and currently I'm not able to ride yet because of my right foot. After the
yeah,
malaria,
yeah,
I lost a lot of those, and I'm still struggling a lot with my right foot. So
yeah.
the bone still hurting a lot. The last few weeks, it's been improving. That's the
Okay,
first time that I start to feel some moments in the day that I have less pain, and
that's good. That's good.
so
That's good.
I'm still hoping one day to be able to ride and to have a bit of fun. I don't expect too much of it because I
Yeah,
lost a lot of physical condition. I'm
yeah,
trying to rebuild it a bit now. Couple of days a week, I'm doing some gym sessions.
yeah,
Um, very little cardio because my foot, yeah, is not taking a lot. Even when I'm cycling, I still have some pain afterwards. Running
okay.
is absolutely impossible. So, yeah, so we'll see. I hope one day to be able to do some laps on the track.
That'd be cool to see you back on a bike. When did you finish your competitive racing and why?
I raced in 2006 was my last season. Yeah, I mean, I did 18 years. I was just mentally worn out at the other point.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, the last 2 years, I pushed myself a lot to try and wrap up some championships,
yeah,
and uh, and then at one point, it's just finished. It just, I mean, I still like to race and to train and preparations, but certain things of the job, I wasn't, I didn't want to do anymore. I was just finished, and
yeah,
mainly it was mentally, it was not
yeah,
physically.
yeah,
And soon as you lose that, I mean, you lose focus, you will lose the contact with the front. I mean,
yeah,
and then I also wanted to stop at my best,
yeah,
and not start to go downhill,
yeah,
downhill.
yeah,
Some riders I see they're still racing and racing, and the results are not there. There used to
yeah.
be, I mean, winners, championship winners and stuff. And
Mm,
I mean, for myself, I made that choice of I want to stop at my best,
yeah.
and that's it.
Okay, that makes sense. Next one I've got. What other sports do you enjoy watching and doing?
Um, well, in general, I like to see many other sports. Um, Also, when there are some Belgium athletes related to. I'm not a really soccer or football fan.
Okay.
It's something I don't look a lot. Only the World Championship. When it's the World Championship of soccer, then I'm
Workout,
watching.
yeah, yeah,
Because yeah, I mean the last years the Belgium team had a really good
yeah,
team,
yeah, yeah.
a lot of good soccer players,
Hmm.
um, and I don't the national soccer sport I don't follow that much.
Yeah.
I like in the time the cycling, cyclocross. I
Okay.
don't know if it's known in England,
Yeah.
um, and MotoGP, a little bit of Formula One, uh, just motorsports. I like to see. Yeah.
Okay, cool. We'll just call that the end of part one then, Stefan, and then we'll get back
Yeah.
for part two in a second.